How does sound and music, just vibrations in the air, move us so deeply? A prominent model in music psychology came from these two papers, where the researchers put forward 8 ways that emotion is elicited and conveyed in music. They suggest that these are the mechanisms by which music moves us, and it comes together in the illuminating but terrible acronym of BRECVEMA. With the addition of one more, I find these really useful in understanding how music works for us, and also as a compositional tool. And a student, James Tate, found a far more appealing acronym, EVERBEAM X. We'll go through these one by one using examples that speak to me, but I encourage you to find examples that are meaningful to you, as well as directly engage with these in your own music writing. Episodic memory refers to a process where an emotion is induced in a listener because it's linked to a memory of a particular event in the listener's life. I have so many of these that as I started writing them, they just multiplied. They act like sonic beads on the thread of life, connecting important, quiet, dark moments. And we'll keep making these. Just last year, I purposefully put Radiohead's Daydreaming throughout my composition lectures. Played it in the last lecture, talking about how fleeting life is. And so a new episodic memory is born. Visual imagery refers to a process where an emotion is induced in the listener because it conjures up visual images, and those images reinforce an emotional state. This association from sound to visuals can be concrete, specific places, or abstract. For some reason, Britten's 4C interludes, Rachmaninoff's Isle of the Dead, and Gorecki's Symphony No. 3 are so deeply evocative of the sea that I can't listen to them without picturing it. It's just something about strings, woodwind, and phrases like waves. Emotional contagion is when the listener perceives the emotional expression of the music. Clear examples are in the singer's voice, but that spills over to instrumental performance, be it the vibrato of a synth lead or the scream of a guitar bend. It's almost like mind melding with the performer or the inherent compositional content. Rhythmic entrainment is a process where an emotion is evoked because we lock in with the external rhythm that we're hearing. It's actually adjust our physiological state, and it's hard to deny or resist the immediate impact of Tower of Power, Nina Simone's sumptuous time feel, the mesmeric lilt of the slow movement of Beethoven's 7th Symphony, or the delicious groove of Herbie Hancock and Stevie Wonder. B is for brainstem reflex, and is probably the most visceral and automatic of all these emotional mechanisms. It refers to a process where an emotion is induced because of the fundamental acoustical characteristics of the music. A sharp sound, a dissonance, a low rumble. I get this with the insistent wood block in John Adams' Short Ride in a Fast Machine. The building feedback at the beginning of Hendrix's Foxy Lady, the stabbed polychords of Rite of Spring, or the deep foreboding sub-bass in John Hopkins' otherwise lyrical Emerald and Stone. Brainstem reflex represents sound in perhaps its most basic sense, which alerts our fight and flight responses. It can even bring us out of the music, such as the poignant, sharp cut-off at the end of George Hrab's Small Comfort. Evaluative conditioning we can think of as a sort of Pavlovian response to the music that has been conditioned over multiple listening experiences, such as the connection of classical timbres and ornamentation to the concept of sophistication, or the slide guitar, the tango bandoneon, or the bagpipes, to various geographical regions and cultures. It includes stylistic and thematic references, like certain chords and melodies to evoke romance or humour, and is a complex, ever-evolving web of references. A is for aesthetic judgment, and it describes how we might be moved by the skill or novelty or creativity in the music itself, such as Bach's ability to compose a 6-part fugue, or the unbelievable fluency of an artist like Hiromi. This is an avenue for emotional communication that actually rewards increased knowledge, and hugely important to those immersed in the musical world. Musical expectancy is where composers and compositional teaching spends much of its time. It's about the process where an emotion is induced in a listener because a feature of the music violates, delays, or confirms the listener's expectations, be it the deceptive resolution of a chord or the rug pull of a metric modulation. I really recommend Huron's book, Sweet Anticipation, if you are at all interested in the science behind this fundamental means of musical expression. To these 8, I suggest we add one more, extra musical content, which might simply be lyrics, piece titles, or knowledge around and about the music that has an emotional impact, a sort of meta layer. If we know that what we're listening to was the last piece composed by a prisoner in a concentration camp, or that Alban Berg entwined his and his lover's names in the melody of the lyric suite, or Elgar's tributes to his friends in the Enigma variation, this adds another thread of emotional impact entwined with the 8 others. This emotional tapestry allows these 9 devices to combine in countless ways, supporting and reinforcing one emotional state, or more importantly perhaps contradicting each other, which is why music is so complex and beautiful and indescribable, and why a simple tune in a major key can be so poignant, and why an aggressive angular piece can feel so liberating and cathartic. I invite you to consider all of these in the music that you know and love, but as composers, to investigate them as a means of a creative outlet, so that you can express and communicate your deepest emotions.